Hello Pigeon Pals! Today I am doing some extensive memory keeping. I just got back from a trip to Colorado and I have all these pictures that I need to get into my journal. Go ahead and grab your journal, your supplies, a cup of water or tea or coffee or whatever drink you fancy and journal with me. So like I said, I went on a trip very recently and this was to Breckenridge, Colorado. This is the first time that I've been west of Kansas, the state that I live in. All my trips have always been east and I've never been to the mountains. So this was a really special trip with lots of photos and videos taken. Because this is memory keeping for me, I'm going to try to keep these photos in as close to chronological order as possible. So I'm just sorting them out between the 3 days that we were there. So, like I said, I am from Kansas, and we had a very long and boring 9-hour drive. It didn't get interesting until about Denver, and that's when you start seeing the scenery. Unfortunately, this day was off and on rainy the whole time, but it also led to some really unique and special weather. We were expecting the weather to be a lot cooler also, but not as cold as it was. So entering Denver, it was raining again, of course, and the temperature was probably like in the low 40s. But as we got closer to Breckenridge, our destination, I think the temperature was dropping and dropping and dropping. Whenever we'd get out to make a pit stop to go to the bathroom or take the dogs on a walk, it was colder and colder and colder, and eventually we actually hit snow. We went into the Eisenhower Tunnel, which I think is probably before Breckenridge from my direction. And when we came out, it was like a winter wonderland. On the first side, there wasn't any snow. And then on the second side, all the trees, the road, there was snow all over the place. It was kind of magical. We were expecting nice, wonderful fall weather, but we skipped fall and went straight to winter. We had left Kansas, or at least our place of residence, around 5 in the morning so we could get there at least at a decent time of day in the evening. And we ended up making it to Breckenridge around 4, I think. I'm not really sure. I wasn't paying super hard attention, but it was definitely a long drive, and hearing that back, that's more like an 11-hour drive. That's kind of crazy. It might have been 3. I'm not really sure. It was a long drive. Anyways, the first stop that we went to once we hit Breckenridge was to get food. We were so hungry. Oh, by the way, I am taking this trip with me, my boyfriend, his mom, and his sister. So a little family trip. But the first place we went to was to get food, like I said. And my boyfriend's sister has been here before, so she was kind of our personal tour guide. And she took us to this place called Ollie's, I believe. And it's like this burger and pub place, and it was so good after that long drive. I had essentially gotten a mushroom and Swiss melt, and it was so good, and their french fries were delicious. Oh my gosh, talking about it and thinking about it is making me hungry. You'll see what some of the burgers look like here in a moment once I put them on a page. Packing for this trip, we were expecting maybe 50-degree weather, 60-degree weather, 50 at the coldest. And I do think it got down into the 30s. So when we walked to this restaurant, we were in our light jackets and our warmer clothes, but not winter clothes. And man, I was wishing I had something more. When we went into the restaurant, it wasn't any better either. They kept that place ice cold, but maybe that's a good thing. From my little knowledge about Breckenridge, it is kind of like a ski resort town. So it's not a huge town, but it does attract a lot of tourists, especially in the skiing months, because of their mountains. And the mountains around there are beautiful. And I don't know, maybe I just don't have a lot of experiencing mountains because I'm from Kansas where it's flat. but it was a real treat to see these sights. After we had eaten, we went ahead and went to our B&B, which was about a 30-minute drive away from Breckenridge and higher up in the mountains. And our B&B was teeny tiny. I am gonna say it wasn't wider. It was like a little a tiny house trailer sort type situation. And I would say it was no wider than 8 feet. And it might have been 30 feet at most long. There's 2 lofts that people could sleep in, and you had about 2.5 feet for head space. It was very small, but it was quite cozy. This B&B was located in Fairplay, Colorado, and it was sitting in the middle of a beautiful mountain range. The next morning, we had woken up extra early to go on a sunrise walk, and it was definitely worth waking up that early. I had packed my watercolor paints and was able to get an opportunity this morning to paint some of the mountains. And with the early morning light, I think it turned out really well. It has been a while since I've done any painting, since it just hasn't been my spark recently. But despite the time that I haven't spent doing that, I think it turned out pretty well. It was really interesting experiencing the higher elevation air there. It's definitely a lot thinner and a lot drier than what I'm used to in Kansas. And it doesn't necessarily, you do get out of breath, but it doesn't feel like quite that you're out of breath. It just feels like you're taking big breaths, but they're not quite like filling your lungs. I'm not sure how to describe it, but it was an interesting experience. And it took probably the whole time we were there to get used to it. Doing some of the most simple tasks like walking upstairs or maybe getting up real fast and going over to the other side of the house took a lot more oxygen than you might expect. After our sunrise walk, we went to a cafe down in Fairplay. It was in Fairplay. And it was called, I think, the Java Moose. And I had gotten a chai tea latte there, and I would not call it a chai tea, but it was really good. It was kind of like, I would say more like a jasmine or a rooibos tea that was milky. I know some of the other members in our party weren't super satisfied with coffee, but if you're ever down there, I would highly recommend the chai tea if you like kind of sweeter drinks. After the coffee house, it was off back to Breckenridge. Down there, we did a little bit exploring of the downtown area. So we walked the downtown area, of course, and surprisingly enough, but probably because it's the off season, a lot of the stores were closed. And this was like on a Wednesday at like 10 in the morning. Well, I think it might have been 1. I don't know. We're kind of slow people. We'll say 1 in the afternoon when most places are open. So it's kind of surprising to see so many shops closed, but like I said, I think it's because it was the off season. Something that is really cool about their downtown area is that they have a stream that goes down next to downtown, and it is really beautiful. The water is so clear there, and what's nice about it is like it's kind of like an open access area where people are allowed to go down to the water. I'm not sure if you are allowed to like wade in it or anything like that, but they didn't have any signs. So I'm sure when it's nicer, some kids or something like that play in the stream. I don't know. It was a really beautiful incorporation to the town and the landscape around. The weather was so much nicer today too. It was up in the 60s like we were expecting. And so once we were finished with exploring the downtown area, we went to Snowflake Trail. And this was kind of the purpose of our trip here, was to go hiking in the mountains. Snowflake Trail is up in Breckenridge, and it's actually underneath the ski gondola that you can go up. Unfortunately, the gondola was closed at the time that we were here, but we hiked the area underneath it. And like the downtown area, this trail had a stream that ran by it. This was kind of a nicer beginner's trail. It wasn't at a super steep incline, and there is lots of shade. And it was just really nice. The walking wasn't hard. There weren't a lot of roots or things in the way that you might trip on. Personally, I found it really fun to kind of make side diversions to go explore the stream and then come back to the trail and meet up with my people. There are apparently beavers up here, and they have done a lot of work in that stream, and it made a whole bunch of like little waterfalls or dams and whatnot. And I don't know, compared to Kansas, there's so many different there's so many different mosses, and the trees are so tall and skinny, and they're different kind of trees too. As someone who likes to kind of inspect nature and admire it, I was really blown away with like the different kind of life that I was finding up here in the mountains. Oh, by the way, I believe Breckenridge is about 10,000 feet plus above sea level. Not 100% sure on that, but I know it's very high up, and not as high as Kansas. I think that hiking trail was kind of the main thing for the day. I don't really remember doing anything else after that. I think we were all so tired that we just wanted to go back to the B&B and relax. I was really hoping that I would be able to find some more time after we had returned to the B&B to do some more painting, but unfortunately we were all so tired and just kind of hanging out and eating snacks that time got away and it got dark faster than expected. But before that, my boyfriend and I were able to go on another longer walk around the area and just kind of admire more of the scenery that we were seeing. To save money, we ended up having a spaghetti meal that my boyfriend's mom and sister made for us, and it was very good. And we all just kind of hung out in a cozy cabin. We put a movie on. I think some people fell asleep really fast, and I don't blame them with how much energy we spent that day. My boyfriend and I did go out after the movie on another walk, and by now it was completely dark outside. And since I live in a city, it doesn't get dark, you know, where you can see all the stars and all the things in the night sky. But out here in the mountains in a small town, it was so dark and you could see so many stars out there. It was really interesting because like every single one of them seemed like it was sparkling as bright as any other one would. Something else that was really cool is you could see the Milky Way. It wasn't as defined as I thought it would be, like in those National Geographic photos, but you could definitely see where the galaxies and the stars were in the sky. We got a later start the next day, but that's alright. Everyone was super tired from that hike and sleeping in was much needed. When people woke up and got ready for the day, we went to this other small town between Fairplay and Breckenridge called Alma. Down in Alma, my boyfriend's sister wanted to explore this coffee shop called the Black Kettle. I personally didn't get anything. I'm not a huge coffee person, and I didn't really feel like drinking caffeine in the morning or tea or anything like that. So I passed on getting something there, but we did go across the street to a bakery called the Bristlecone Bake Shop. And what this owner specialized in was sourdough. And let me tell you, I've never had sourdough like that before. First of all their pastries were like so crunchy and flaky and crisp. It was heaven, guys. It was delicious. Unfortunately, the cinnamon roll that I got, I had only eaten like maybe 3 bites out of it, and I was saving the rest of it for later. And the dogs that we had got it. They ate my cinnamon roll, guys. It's not a big deal, but I would have liked enjoying it. We had also gotten a loaf of seeded sourdough too to bring home and eat during the work week, and that is also amazing. Again, if you guys are ever up in Alma or Fairplay, check these places out. They're super good. They're amazing. Anyways, after we got our bellies filled, we went down to explore the Fairplay downtown area. And it was really interesting because all the shops there kind of seemed like art collectives, I think is the right term. where you have an owner of the store, and then you have lots of local artists who are kind of sponsored by the owner and will sell their goods. There was one store owner in particular, the owner of Mountain Sun Art, who is super sweet and super personable. My boyfriend's mom and his sister actually ended up talking to him the whole time that we were in that area. While they were talking to him, he recommended this hiking trail that is mostly known to locals. And because we were looking for another trail to hike for that day, we decided to go on that one. And I definitely think it was worth it. So this hiking trail kind of took you off the back roads and up into the mountains and into the forest. I believe if you ever go to this area, you'll want to look up the Horseshoe Campground, and then the Limber Grove Trail is what we went on. Let me tell you, this trail isn't especially for people who aren't used to the altitude or people who don't normally hike. It starts off as a nice, easy stroll in a slightly sloped forest, but as you get to maybe a third of the way through, it becomes really steep, guys. It becomes a mountain, because you are climbing a mountain. And it zigzags like roads will on the side of a mountain. And eventually, it opens up to this clearing. And this is what people come for. This is why people hike this trail. In this clearing, or I guess just beyond this clearing, is trees that are 1,000+ years old. I believe they're called bristlecone pine trees, like the bake shop. And they were so beautiful. Their trunks were so thick, and they're kind of striped, which is interesting. I'm not really sure why or how they got striped, but they were kind of striped. And they're growing out of this mountain face, essentially. So when you get to the clearing, you immediately look out away from the mountain to see the other mountains and to see the forests surrounding them. But when you turn around, that is the view you're really seeing. When you look up and around, you'll see the mountain, the cliff face, looming over you. And let me tell you, if you've never been to the mountains, or if you're from Kansas, Flatland, Kansas, it is a beautiful sight. It was so stunning. I got really excited and had to tell my boyfriend about it immediately, and I really wish that I just took a moment to take it in. I would say hiking up this trail was about 40 minutes for us. We did kind of backtrack and check on my boyfriend's mom and his sister since they were a little slower with the dogs, and they just told us to go ahead and to explore ahead of them. So I would say it took us about 40 minutes, maybe 45 minutes to get up to the top. And then going down is a lot faster because you're going downhill. And I would say that's about half an hour. In total, I think the trail, that at least how far we went, was about 4 miles. 2 miles up and then 2 miles down. And that wore me out, guys. By the time we got to the bottom, I was so hungry. We hadn't taken any snacks with us on the trail because it was there were bears in the area, and that is an active season for bears. So we had gone up with no snacks. So by the time we had gotten back to the car, I was pleading for people to take me to food. But like I said earlier, it was kind of a back way road, so it took a little while to get to food. And by the time we got to our destination, I kind of wasn't feeling good. I had a headache, and my feet and knees were not very happy with me, and I definitely could have felt better. But the BLT from Otto's food truck in Alma did the trick. It made me feel so much better. And once we had eaten again, we headed out. You know, it wasn't a very long trip that we went on. It was really a 3-day trip, and we only spent probably 2 actual days in the area we were looking for. The car ride home was also long, no surprise there. But fortunately, I actually slept a lot more than I was expecting to, so it didn't feel as long as it probably was to the drivers. Normally my ears don't have an issue adjusting to the altitudes, but for some reason, unlike the trip up, my ear on the way down was not having it, and it was not very comfortable for the first couple of hours. And I think that actually did last into a day or so back home. But fortunately, that has gone away, and I am fully recovered from all my hiking. I feel so lucky to have family who want to include me on such an amazing trip like this. If it wasn't for my boyfriend's spontaneous sister and nagging to get us up there, it wouldn't have happened. I think that my favorite part of the trip, besides the food, was experiencing that second hike and making it to the top of the mountain. It's not an everyday sight that you see. Even if you live up in that area, I'm sure you don't hike every single day. I also actually really enjoyed exploring the small towns that our Airbnb was in a lot more than the actual destination of Breckenridge. I just feel like that the Fairplay and Alma were a lot more personable, and the people there were much sweeter and kinder to you than perhaps the people in Breckenridge. Although it's probably unfair of me to say that quite yet, because I really didn't have any interactions with a lot of the locals there. Would I move up here? Not necessarily. I would definitely visit again. I really enjoyed the visiting aspect, but it might be a little small for my taste. But I would definitely visit again. Like, this would be a place that I would come back to every 2 or 3 years if I could. Well, that is my story up in Breckenridge, Colorado. And I had an amazing time there. And after having gotten all these photos in, this actually finishes this journal. So not only did you get to hear a cool story, you also got to witness the end of this journal. I think it was the perfect timing because it is the end of September as I am recording this, and October is just a couple days away, so that's really nice timing in my opinion. Before I go, I am going to advertise myself like any good YouTuber should. If you like this content or want to see more of it, or just like having me on as background noise, go ahead and subscribe. Hit the follow button and subscribe. If you've got questions or comments or just want to share something, leave me a comment. I'll interact with you. I am on TikTok and Instagram. It is going to be Pigeon Pages, and for Instagram it's going to be pigeon underscore pages. But beyond that, that's about all I've got to say. I will say real fast as a little fun fact if you want to know. By the time I had gotten all the recording for this video, I had an hour and a half of footage. That is a lot for me, guys. But lucky for you, you only have to watch about 25 minutes. I'm really surprised it cut down to such a short video, although that is on the longer side for me. I was really expecting it to be about 30 or 40 minutes, trying to talk to you about my trip. While I am trying to fill time, I will divulge a small secret to you guys. On that second hike, where it says there were active bears in the area, though I am not fond of the idea of a bear attack, I was kind of hoping we would see a bear. I think that would be really cool to some degree, but also pretty scary. Fortunately or unfortunately, depending on who you ask, we did not see any bears. But we did see lots of other people who were traveling, and we saw some people from Oklahoma, from Minnesota. I think we actually saw 2 couples from Minnesota. And it was really cool stopping and talking to them, how they got to Breckenridge, and kind of what their plans were. Another secret that's not super secret to people in my life, but might be a little embarrassing to share to you guys, and also kind of a question. Does anyone else have like a very specific stuffed animal that they have to bring with them? I don't know. I'm in my younger 20s, and by now people would expect for me to have outgrown stuffed animals. But this one was gifted to me, and it has come along in every single trip that I've taken since it was gifted to me when I was probably like 19. Again, probably too old for stuffed animals. But I was just wondering, am I the only one out there, or is there someone else who's just got a really strong attachment to things that are a little childish. Anyways, I have been working on editing this video and doing the voiceover all day, and I am famished. So I think I am gonna go ahead and go and make something delicious to eat. I hope you guys enjoy the little flip through of what I've been working on, and I hope I catch you guys in the next video. Bye!